Hey guys, as new ranged champions become ever so meta in top lane, like Azir, Corki, Tristana, Karma, etc., it's becoming a sad time to be a top lane main. Playing melee champions versus ranged characters can be really frustrating. You're expected to lose, and it can feel like there's nothing that you can do about the poke. Matchups versus these ranged top laners are obviously all different, but in this video, we'll be covering general guidelines that you'll want to follow when against a ranged top laner. Your first mission will be to give up some CS. The biggest mistake that you can make as a melee champion is tunneling too hard on getting every single last hit. This typically leads to you getting really chunked out, having to recall, and falling even farther behind. It'll be up to you to pick and choose which CS you go for, taking as little damage as possible while doing so. We'll cover some guidelines for this further in the video. Mission 2 will be to wait for your opponent to misplay and to punish hard. This ties directly with Mission 1. A lot of the time, melee players get too low from constant harass. But if you give up CS and preserve your health, when your opponent inevitably does make a mistake, you'll be healthy enough to punish and gain control of the lane. It's actually totally fine to fall behind 20 or even 30 CS, as long as you're staying even in experience. One good punish versus a ranged top laner will allow you to catch back up or even take the lead. Alright, your final mission will be to set up easy ganks for your jungler. Like it or not, the biggest weakness to ranged characters in top lane is ganks. They're usually squishy and easy to gank, so most junglers just camp them anyways. But make sure to communicate and make the ganks even more enticing by having proper wave control, and having the wave in an ideal ganking spot. The replay that we'll be reviewing is from 100 Thieves' Ssumday playing Riven versus a Vayne top picking jerk. To make matters worse for Ssumday, he was actually disconnected at the start of the game, so he's going to be even more behind than usual. Since he wasn't in lane at the start, he unfortunately only gets one of the first 3 melees because he couldn't prep them before they hit tower. Then he randomly AFKs for whatever reason, taking 2 free auto attacks. This is a pretty tragic start to an already depressing lane, but let's watch how Ssumday turns this around with proper discipline and game knowledge. He goes for this first melee minion since it's pretty close to his tower, and he only has to tank 1 auto attack to get it. Then he gives up that next one obviously, since there was no way that he was going to get that. There's 2 certainties in life: taxes and ranged top laners tanking turret shots. As the wave crashes, Vayne does that thing that every ranged top laner does, where they always push it too far and tank a tower shot. These are the big mistakes that you're waiting for and looking to punish. Sadly, Ssumday isn't level 3 yet and can't take advantage of this. He goes for the easy cannon creep, and now, as the tower starts hitting the ranged creeps, he goes in to get as many as he can. Now, he uses 2 Qs to get 2, but uses his last bit of mobility to get away from Vayne's range, leaving the other 3 caster creeps behind. Remember, ranged creeps give less gold than melees and are harder to get. You're typically going to be giving up most ranged creeps to preserve your health. When the next wave crashes, he gives up 2 more melees since he was unlikely to get them, and goes for the third with his Q, also negating the auto by shielding it. As for the ranged creeps, he gives those up until the last one since he only needed to tank 1 auto for it. This is another good guideline for deciding which creeps to farm. Tanking 1 auto attack for a creep is usually fine if you have health and potions to play with, whereas 2 autos for a single creep is usually not worth. So let's speed this up a bit since he's just applying these concepts in the middle of the lane, and we don't want to start sounding like a broken record here. At this point, Ssumday has saved enough health, so when Vayne inevitably goes too aggressive, Ssumday pounces on her, stunning her under tower, chunking her to half HP. Since Ssumday is still really healthy, because he's been giving up CS, Vayne has to base here. She also opted for Ignite, so she can't even teleport back to lane. This will let Ssumday freely shove these waves and crash them into her tower. As this wave is reaching Vayne's tower, let's pause. We'll give you 5 seconds. If you can tell me what Ssumday should and will do here, you should quit your day job because you're going pro. Let's watch it and then break it down. Okay, what he did may seem a bit weird, but Ssumday kind of just won his lane, believe it or not. Let's first imagine what would happen if he doesn't do this. He unfortunately couldn't shove the previous waves fast enough, so if we were to try and crash normally, the waves would meet like this. This is incredibly difficult to clear as a melee champion since the ranged creeps are in turret range, and he'd have to tank the tower too long to clear them. This would also let Vayne get back in time and potentially freeze this wave, putting Ssumday in a bad spot. The end result of all that being that he'd likely have to teleport back to a really shoved out lane, leaving himself vulnerable to a jungle gank. That would all really suck for Ssumday. He knows how bad that is, so he opts for the play that we saw. By drawing the red creeps away from his own, he ensures that his wave fully crashes into Vayne's tower. We cover this basically in every top lane video that we're making lately, but whenever your wave crashes into the enemy's tower, it'll bounce back towards you, usually in a slow push. Not only that, but because his minions crashed into the tower faster, Vayne will lose even more farm since your creeps are dying faster. So Ssumday recalls, buys, and walks back to lane. Because of his play, he doesn't need to teleport since the wave is already pushing back to him. And the cherry on top of all that sweet ice cream is that this slow push towards him sets up Vayne to be easily ganked. If the enemy top laner is just getting into lane and the wave is pushing towards you, it's usually a correct call to ask for jungle pressure. Since Vayne just got to the lane, there's no way that she's warded river yet, meaning that Aatrox can sneak in here easily. Thankfully, when Ssumday pings, Aatrox does listen, resulting in an easy kill. After the kill, Ssumday has two options with this wave. He can either freeze and deny Vayne a ton of XP and gold while setting up a gank for his jungler, or he can even out the waves, which he does here, which results in a slow push since the wave is closer to his side. The reason that he does this is because it accomplishes the same goal of setting up a gank on Vayne while also giving him another option. Because this is such a slow push, Vayne still has to walk very far up into lane to farm, leaving herself exposed. But since Aatrox is topside, Vayne might just play safe. By making this a slow push, he can push this at a moment's notice and set up a dive on Vayne with Aatrox really easily. Vayne doesn't respect the threat of a regank and plays far up in the lane, so she dies yet again. Now, the two of them can crash the wave into the tower. And once Riven is this ahead, the lane is usually over, so we'll end it here. I know, the ever-pressing question, what if my jungler doesn't come, is crossing your mind. Well, you can still kill your opponent by yourself by letting the wave shove to you and going for an extended trade in the middle of the lane once you hit a power spike on your specific champion. For example, during the second gank, Riven basically kills Vayne by himself. He hadn't bought after the first gank either, so this is kind of what it would have looked like had he never received help. It just would have happened further down the line. You can't solo kill your opponent in every matchup though, so communicate and be nice to your jungler. They'll likely help you anyways, since ranged top laners are usually such easy kills. Alright, that's it for this video, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.